Benjamin is our youngest son, and he completed our family. He was diagnosed with acute lymphoblastic leukemia, which is the most common and the most curable childhood cancer. So at the beginning, we found relief easily with the numbers because it's like 85–90% cure rate. Benji started needing transfusions right away because the leukemia cells attacked everything. And that's how we knew that he was even sick, is because he started getting significant abnormal bruising all over his body. His transfusions didn't last very long at the end of his life at all. I mean, sometimes the numbers reflected that they really hardly made a dent in things, especially platelets. But I can definitely say they made him more comfortable. Things changed so quickly, every day there, especially, before there were no other options. There was always another option. It was always quickly trying to find something else. And then when they told us that there were no other options, it was quickly trying to make him as comfortable as possible. He was just so involved in his care, and he knew that he had to have his port redressed every 7 days. And I told him it was coming up on the next day. But once we found out he was dying, we weren't going to put him through that. He hated that part of it. So I told him, you don't have to get your port redressed tomorrow because you're not getting any treatment anymore. And he said, then what are we doing here? Why can't we go home? And at that point I was like, oh, anything he said we wanted to make happen.
People have really powerful and solid ideas if they're told you have this amount of time to live. Now that's not, that's nobody's crystal ball, but you can imagine if you were given 3 months to live, you'd probably be pretty decisive about how you want to spend those 3 months. And most people don't want them to be in an ICU.
Hospice is an environment where the social part is much more important than the physiologic. The disease progression is going to be what it is. The family, the caregivers have made a decision to let that disease follow its natural course, but it doesn't mean you have to feel bad if there's relief available. That certainly works with pain management. Palliative pain relief is certainly number one in a hospice environment. You want the person to feel as comfortable as they can with regard to pain. Well, why not as comfortable as possible with regard to fatigue and their energy level and their ability to make the most out of those last days that the family has made a decision to grab onto.
When a patient is an oncology patient, though, and might have disease in their bone marrow, particularly leukemia, or if they have some other cancer that's metastasized to the bone marrow, it is difficult sometimes with hospice because not all of them allow transfusions. And where we live here, our hospices are divided up by county, and some of our hospices, at least 2 of them, will do transfusions at home. So when we have an inpatient who is at the end of life and they're willing to go home, they'd like to go home, they are happy to have hospice come in, and it's in one of those areas where we know we can get transfusions to the home, then it makes that decision very easy. But if it's a family that lives in one of those other counties where we can't get transfusions, then a lot of times they will make that difficult decision to trade off going home to staying and having the last days in the hospital.
When we first started the conversation about bringing him home, we were told that he could not have platelet transfusions at home. People moved heaven and earth to try to get him home. I mean, so many people, after they read my entry that night about him wanting to be home, they contacted, CEOs of the blood bank here and all these higher up people. I mean, I wonder how many phone calls he got, because I think I must have written in there that part of the decision, part of the barrier to getting him home was this platelet issue, because he needed platelets all the time.
We did get the blood bank on the horn, and they were very interested, which I loved. That was a huge thing for me as a nurse. I'm like, we were really tapping ground, at least that I had not entered in my 20 years of hospice nursing, doing blood products at home, but I didn't see why it couldn't be done.
What really struck home with me was Benjamin and his mom, wanting to really see this through. And when I knew that the child is away from home in a hospital, which could be a cold, sterile room, which is totally different than being with your family and loved ones at your last days. And I knew that if we can get this child some blood products, they're going to feel better. He's going to have a few better days left that he can relate with the family. The mom can have a better relationship at the end of this. And so I became driven to do this and say, we got to do it. Even if we have to just give and donate the products to them, we're going to do that just to make this happen.
We had all our questions answered, and I felt like I was ready to make the decision to try to get him home. And maybe seconds later, my husband walked in the room and said, "Benji's crying for you." He took my place to get the information I had just gotten. I went in the room and I saw him in worse pain than I've ever seen him in my life. And I just knew at that moment that we needed to keep him there. I said, I need to ask my son what he wants, and he just wanted to be in the bathtub. And I asked him, I said, do you think you can stay here? Do you think you can be comfortable here? And I could have been asking, he did not care at that point. He just wanted to be, out of pain. And I feel really grateful that people tried so hard to get him home. Of course I wish that he could have been home if that's what he wanted, but it would have been more painful to get him here. He wouldn't have had what he needed here.
Children, of course, are so different. It's not the same as adults. I would like to see that happen across the board.
I would really like to see patients be able to routinely get transfusions at home.
Hardly anyone that I know of is really bringing this forward. Anyone is really concentrating on this effort for a palliative care or transfusion, not just in a palliative care setting, but in a hospice kind of setting. I think it's almost written off that, hey, we can't do it, or it's done at a hospital. That's your two options. You can't do it, or it's at a hospital.
It's a misconception. I think there are, because it's all individual-based, organizationally. Some are for-profit hospices. We are not-for-profit. I don't know that always makes a difference, but some don't offer the same treatment or allow them because of the financial burden of it. And that's healthcare in general. So for example, with the blood transfusions, if you're getting routine reimbursement under Medicare is around, about $150 to $160 a day for a hospice patient at home. So one blood transfusion, 1 unit of packed red blood cells, or that between the human resource, the equipment, the blood product itself, would far outweigh even a month's reimbursement. Nobody should stop blood transfusions when it still has a benefit. If it does give you more energy, if it makes you less short of breath, if it can do those sort of things, a transfusion, absolutely, it's palliative.
This is about kids and grandkids, and this is about people trying to come to terms with their maker in a way that is more positive than hey, I feel lousy today. Wish I had some energy.
If people can move heaven and earth for Benji to be able to go home and get what he needed, then I'm sure it can happen. And maybe there just needs to be a precedent set, or those pieces in place. The hurdles were moved very quickly, and it just wasn't quickly enough, because it would have had to have been the same day. It would have had to have been in place, for us to really be able to take him home.